Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. Ari was trying to take a vacation this week, but the news never stops. We have a new QB1 at Alabama, officially QB1 at Alabama. Also, what happens when you don't make your Venmo transactions private? Well, people go through your Venmo transactions, and if you say sports gambling in the What's This For line and you're a college quarterback, that's going to be a thing.
I got to tell you, Andy, I know we're going to talk about it later, but if you go through my Venmo history, it's only gambling.
Well, guess what? You're okay because you don't get fired for that. You have had jobs where you could be fired for that, but this is not one of those. This was a strange situation that popped up Monday night. John Mateer's public Venmo transactions. And again, I will say this later in the show. I'll say this probably a billion more times today. Make your Venmo transactions private unless you just want to entertain the rest of us. That's your helpful life advice from your Uncle Andy today. But all right, we're going to talk more about that with George Stoia from Soonerscoop.com, our excellent Oklahoma site at On 3. But first, let's talk Alabama QB because Ty Simpson is the guy at Alabama. We thought this was going to happen. This is the first of those QB competitions to be settled. We also are waiting on Ohio State. We're waiting on Notre Dame. This is what we expected the outcome to be, Ari. Are you surprised, though, that they did it this early and said, hey, team, that's the number one guy. He's your starter?
You know, I actually think this is the more functional way. And I don't know if I'm jaded, Andy, from like covering quarterback battles in the past that have gone too long or have, infringed on like team meshing. But like, I think that a week into fall camp or halfway through fall camp before you get to game week is more than enough time to figure out who the best quarterback is and to put your team around that person. Now, the interesting thing about this to me, and I'm like a tinfoil hat guy, Andy, is like if you're a quarterback coach and a person who has recruited players or inherited players who are different ages and different years, like I do not believe that anybody is ever neck and neck in the sense that you as a quarterback coach can't decipher who is better. Like maybe it happens sometimes, but how?
Oh, I think it definitely happens where they're both kind of, or both or two or three, or everybody's kind of meh. But if one of them's good, it's usually pretty obvious.
And I think that when it gets most difficult is when you have two really good quarterbacks who play different styles, and you have to decide which way you want your team to go offensively. But, from my standpoint, the entire world was assuming that Ty Simpson was going to be the starting quarterback at Alabama. I think everybody knew it. It wasn't a secret. So what's the point in going all the way to the final, week of preparation for your first game in order to name it? Like, I think that this is better. Now, like, I know we're not talking about Ohio State, but like they're kind of doing this thing too. And Notre Dame is doing this thing too. And I saw that Pete Nakos reported yesterday that, Menchie and Carr are neck and neck. And, it seems like Julian's saying maybe pulling away in Columbus, but like, get it done, man. That's the way
Notre Dame's got a scrimmage this weekend. I'm wondering if we get something early next week.
Yeah,
because Marcus Freeman strikes me as the type of guy who would just drop this is our QB1 graphic.
It is so funny to put up Fran Brown as the poster child for my line of thinking, considering the fact that he said they were going to name a starter and then they went out and got somebody else. And he says, we're not playing that game. But
Fran says he's going to name first team, second team, third team this week. So we may see that later this week.
But I feel like the earlier the better because you want your team to know who's playing. You want your guy to get also too, first round or first team reps. Right? You want to split up your first team reps with a first time starter for an extra 2 weeks in the most pivotal point in the season for development because you can't figure out who your starting quarterback is.
And they're at Florida State right out of the chute, which new defensive coordinator, lots of new personnel. Like you don't know what you're going to get. You're on the road. So you probably want that guy to have as many reps with the first team as possible. Now we've talked a lot, Ari, about, I say that group in the top 8, I feel like is the group that could win the national championship. And 6 of those 8 are breaking in first-year starters. I did some research, and I'm going to have a column at On 3 that it's probably out by now as you're listening to this. But can you guess, Ari, in the last 20 seasons, how many times a first-time college starting quarterback, so like not Will Howard. Will Howard was his first year at Ohio State.
Yeah.
But he had started at Kansas State plenty. So How many times in the past 20 seasons has a first-year starting quarterback led his team to a national title?
Is it 2 or 1?
It's 9. It's
9?
10.
9?
It's 10 if you count Tua coming into the national title game, which I think you should. Also, I'm not counting Stetson Bennett in 2021, who had 5 starts in 2020. Well, guess who has 5 career college starts? Dante Moore. So, like, it is way more common.
Oh, wow. 9 is way more. That's half. Yeah. That's almost half of the national champions. And here I was thinking that Clemson and Penn State were going to go into the season feeling really good about themselves.
Yeah,
you can't have anything like Penn State. You just can't.
Let me give you the list. Again, we're not counting Stetson Bennett in 2021, but we probably should be, since that's the same situation Dante Moore's in. Mac Jones in 2020, Trevor Lawrence in 2018. I'm not counting Tua coming into the title game in 2017, but I probably should.
Those were the 2. When I said 2, those were the 2 I remembered. So let's hear the rest of them.
Jake Coker, JT Barrett and Cardale Jones.
A team I covered.
Yeah. Jameis Winston, AJ McCarron, Cam Newton, Greg McElroy, Matt Flynn at LSU.
Wow, that was a really pathetic guess on my part. And if you ever needed any reinforcement on how terrible I am at trivia, there you go. I think
I would have guessed low too before I looked it up. Even though I remember those seasons pretty distinctly, like
in a million years, I wouldn't have remembered that Jameis was in his first year. I wouldn't have remembered that Jake Coker was in his first year. Maybe that's just because it's been
Jake Coker's the most interesting one, and Jake Coker's the one that I think we should look at in this situation, because I'm the one who keeps saying that Ty Simpson didn't start over Jalen Milroe. And if you're telling me Jalen Milroe was the problem, then I don't understand why you think this is going to be different. But Jake Coker, if we go back, so Jake Coker was at Florida State. He's with Jameis Winston. They're both sitting behind EJ Manuel. It becomes clear that Jameis Winston is going to win the starting job at Florida State. Jake Coker needs to graduate, because this is the old times when he couldn't transfer and play right away. So he graduates after 2013. He transfers to Alabama as a grad transfer in 2014. He does not win the job. Blake Sims is the starting quarterback in 2014. So going into 2015, if I'm like, well, Jake Coker didn't win the job. Okay. But he won the job in 2015. They actually tried to take it away from him. Remember, they started Cooper Bateman against Ole Miss and lost, gave it back to Jake Coker, and he leads them to a national title. So what I'm saying is, when you have a loaded team, and that was a loaded Alabama team, if that quarterback is pretty good, and Jake Coker was probably pretty good in 2015, he was not obviously a future NFL quarterback or anything like that, you're just fine. And guess what? Alabama has a loaded roster this year.
Well, Andy, just do me a favor and go through the list really quick again for me, because I already forgot. Because that's my ability to retain. But I have a point I'm going to get to.
We'll go up in years this time. We'll start so 20 seasons ago, that's Vince Young. He was a multi-year starter. Then Chris Leak at Florida was a multi-year starter. But it starts with Matt Flynn in 2007 at LSU. Greg McElroy in 2009 at Alabama. Remember, John Parker Wilson was the starter the year before. Cam Newton in 2010 at Auburn. He'd been at Lynn Junior College before that. AJ McCarron at Alabama in 2011. Jameis Winston at Florida State in 2013. JT Barrett / Cardale Jones at Ohio State in 2014. Because remember, Braxton Miller was supposed to be the starter and hurt his arm in training camp. Trevor Lawrence in 2018. Again, I'm not counting Tua coming in. Mac Jones in 2020.
Okay. One thing I wanted to say. When Braxton Miller got hurt, that was the closest thing I've ever seen to a funeral at a training camp. And I think it's funny now because they ended up winning a championship the same year that they thought their season was over in the middle of August. So this is the point I want to make about that. Of all the quarterbacks that you named, there's only one quarterback on that list that you could say wasn't a part of the super team, and that was Cam Newton. And Cam Newton may have been the single greatest.
Cam Newton was the super team.
Yeah, maybe the single greatest quarterback or player even to play college football. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself is, in an era, that 20-year span that you went through was the era of the super team. And it was easier for first-year starters to step into places like Ohio State and Alabama and win championships in Texas. And Vince Young, I think, was probably more like Cam Newton than he was like Jake Coker, obviously. But in this era of college football,
Vince Young was a multi-year starter, though. He wasn't one of these.
But in this era of college football, where the depth charts aren't so stacked in the favors of these teams anymore, and that the games are more won in the margins than they've ever been won before, is it enough to say, well, a first-year starter's on Alabama, that'll be good enough, or that first-year starter's on Ohio State, it'll be good enough? Like, I think
it probably has to be a first-year starter who also is probably going to be a first-round draft pick.
Right, that ends up being that way. I don't think like Jake Coker would work this year. Like, right. I think that Ty Simpson, and that to wrap it around onto the entire conversation, if Alabama wants to win the national title this year, they're going to need more than Jake Coker from Ty Simpson. Is that a fair thought?
I think so. I think you're exactly right.
You're probably.
I think Ty Simpson is probably better than Jake Coker in terms of skill set.
Yes. But he's not just throw a body in there. They're Alabama. It's going to be fine, especially not against that schedule and in that conference that has all these great quarterbacks. That said, I still think that I would be very much excited about the position that I'm in if I were, let's say, Clemson, or let's say Penn State. These are the two teams that are both very good around their quarterback and have a very good proven quarterback who's played a lot. I think that, like, for national championship perspective, I like both. Will they actually do it? Both have like overarching narrative questions. Can James Franklin win the big game? Is Clemson's old school way of building their program good enough? Inherently interesting, storylines. But I wonder if the elite quarterback with the elite roster is what you absolutely need to have in 2025 and beyond to win the national championship. And we're going to find out this year, because it does seem like if you were going to take those two or the field of first-year starters, you'd probably take the field right now, right? But it'll be fun. This is going to be such a fun season, Andy. Like, I don't think that people like realize with the quarterback talent, the narratives, it's going to be so much fun, dude.
And speaking of great quarterbacks, John Mateer at Oklahoma, probably the most sought after player in the portal, coming from Washington State, and now wrapped up into one of the weirdest and, I'll say it, dumbest stories I think I've ever seen. We had George Stoia from Soonerscoop.com join us to break down the John Mateer situation. Hey, it's Andy doing a little time traveling here. Before we get to the interview with George Stoia, we got something from John Mateer. So between recording with George, recording with Ari, and releasing the show, John Mateer released a statement. So this is from the Oklahoma quarterback about his Venmo transactions. The allegations that I once participated in sports gambling are false. My previous Venmo descriptions did not accurately portray the transactions in question, but were instead inside jokes between me and my friends. I've never been on sports. I understand the seriousness of the matter, but recognize that taken out of context, these Venmo descriptions suggest otherwise. I can assure my teammates, coaches, and officials at the NCAA that I am not engaged in any sports gambling. So pretty definitive denial from John Mateer. And as we'll talk about with George and also with Ari a little bit later, if there's something in your history, I'm not sure you're going to come out this strong saying this, because if there's something in your history with all the different services that schools have to use and that the sports books use, they would find something if it's in your history. So the fact that John Mateer has come out so forcefully and fairly quickly, this is within about 16 hours of this getting dropped on the internet, I'd say there's probably a good chance that he's just fine here. We'll see. But it's still a fascinating situation. One of those only in 2025 deals, not something we olds ever thought about would happen when we were kids, but that is just the world we live in now. Here is George Stoia talk about the John Mateer situation. The big news in college football involves a dude's Venmo account. Well, yeah, John Mateer, Oklahoma's quarterback. Somebody got a hold of his Venmo account, and his transactions were public, which kids never make your Venmo transactions public. I think that's the greatest lesson we can learn from anything. But John Mateer had some Venmo transactions 3 years ago when he was Washington State's redshirting freshman quarterback. And the description for one of them was sports gambling. USC versus UCLA, which of course that would be against the rules if it were an actual bet on USC and UCLA. Now, can anybody prove any of this? Probably not from Venmo transactions, but if you're Oklahoma, if you're the people running the football program, the athletic department, this now is something you've got to deal with. So we bring in George Stoia from Sooner Scoop on Three's excellent Oklahoma site. And George, you've been burning up the phones all morning talking to people about this. What is the latest on John Mateer? Can I add gate to this? Can I call it Venmo gate?
Hey, Andy, I just put it in a headline for us. And I don't think I've ever written a more ridiculous headline than, what we know about John Mateer and Venmo gate. But I can tell you, Andy, doing some reporting with Sooner Scoop, that they are aware of the situation. OU, that is. Mateer has talked to all the right people inside the program, whether that's coaching staff, compliance has been made aware of this. OU's on top of it. They're handling it. Whatever that entails, I'm not exactly sure. I think that they probably have to do some background checking on this. I don't really know what all goes into it. I know they haven't heard from the NCAA on this yet. Of course, this happened late last night. Maybe the NCAA gets involved at some point, but it's one of those things too, Andy, that I think Mateer is basically like, hey, we were just joking around. We were, having some fun in college, and you know how it is, Andy. You ever, put some funny stuff on Venmo? Maybe that's what happened. I don't really know. But it's one of those situations that now becomes, maybe the most interesting. Is it even a story? Like, that's the thing that I'm trying to juggle right now, Andy's like, is it a story? I guess so.
Here's why I find it interesting, George, because when I saw the screenshots on Monday night, my first response was, this has got to be fake. Because who would put sports gambling in the what's this for line on Venmo? Like, it looked like somebody had just used AI to create fake screenshots of somebody's Venmo account. And then you started seeing the videos come out where they're just scrolling his Venmo transactions. And you see, oh, no, they do show up there. And then John Mateer makes his Venmo private later in the night, which is almost that we've kind of decided that's the universal acknowledgement that this might be real. Yeah. And that's the thing. It was so dumb that it looked fake. And then he puts them private and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't fake. But to your point, you can put anything in that Venmo line. You can't prove any of it. Right. And there's always an explanation. I did go through my own Venmo transactions today. Mine are private, by the way, because I'm an old and I was raised in an analog world where you don't put all your business out on the internet. But I did, in the interest of transparency, find my sketchiest Venmo transaction and let everybody see it. And I paid Stuart Mandel $160 for burger emoji, which I'm assuming was a more elaborate dinner than burgers.
Yeah.
Based on the date, it was the night before the national championship game. But who knows? Maybe there was a gold encrusted Wagyu burger somewhere in there that I just forgot about. But that's the world we live in now, where people will go through your stuff from years ago looking for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and look, I'm the same way, Andy. A lot of my Venmo transactions are just emoji stuff, but
I have an only emoji rule.
Yeah, only emojis. Yeah, or just go private on them. And that's the part that's like, man, what was he thinking? But yet at the same time, you have to remember he's 18 years old. He's a freshman in college, and that's the part that it's like, I really don't think they can prove anything. But I think I texted this to you last night when we were kind of chatting about it, and I know I talked to other people about this. It's the idea of like, okay, now like OU has to be made aware of it. The NCAA, I'm sure, is aware of it in some capacity. And do they look into other stuff? You think back to the Iowa State and Iowa scandal where they found those guys had, was it DraftKings accounts, I think.
Right. And Hunter Deckers was going to be Iowa State's quarterback and got pulled off the team.
Exactly. So it's like, could they go and look and see if John does have an account somewhere else or somebody, that he's paying to, I hate to speculate like that, but that's the kind of thought that went through my head. Is like, they're not going to prove anything with the Venmo account, but does it lead, a paper trail to something else? I don't know. I really think nothing's going to come of this other than a fun internet story and a meme, and he's probably going to catch a lot of crap for it on the road this year in the SEC and on College game day, maybe. But I don't know, Andy. It's fascinating, and I also know that OU is trying to maybe get ahead of this. Maybe they put out a statement today. I don't know if that's even a good idea. Like, is it something that you should just be like, oh, let's just move on and pretend like this didn't happen? I don't really know how they're going to go about this.
Well, here's the thing, especially with this stuff, and we live in a new world, and let's be real here. We all, like, shows like mine have gambling sponsors. Everybody has access to apps where they can gamble. It is rampant on college campuses. That is absolutely true. The NCAA is currently working on adjusting its rules. It's in the legislative process to make it where student athletes can gamble on pro sports. They still can't gamble on their own sports or sports at their school, but they'll be allowed to gamble on pro sports because that's basically the NCAA saying, hey, we're going to live in reality here because college students gamble on sports, and that's just how it is now. But you still can't gamble on your own sport. That's always going to be a rule. And what I think is interesting is we'll see how Oklahoma handles this, but if there's something to be found in this type of situation, like the Hunter Decker situation at Iowa State, it'll get found because the schools subscribe to these services that check everything. The sports books, I guarantee, are now looking back at all the Washington State games, looking back at history and that sort of thing, because they have a financial interest in making sure that the games aren't fixed. So they'll go into it deep, probably deeper than the NCAA ever could. If there was something to be found, to be found. If John Mateer is going to Oklahoma and saying, hey, there's nothing here, you can put out a statement, like, they're probably going to be okay, because he would know if he had something in the history that's going to get, because if you do have something in the history, they will find it.
Right. And you know, I don't know, Andy, like, I just don't buy that he was doing that. I mean, there was other transactions in there, like FIFA betting or something. Like, maybe it was just one of those things where they're betting on video games in their,
it was like super mega sports gambling FIFA, if I remember correctly, which, yeah, I was assuming that's betting on a video game that you guys are playing together.
It's just like, it's so head scratching to be like, man, you just put sports gambling in the memo. Like, what? Well, and again, I know he's 18, but the thought process there, I don't know, Andy. It's one of those things that, you know, last night I was just hanging out at home and had a busy work day, you know, preseason camps going on. And it's like this, like, somebody DMs me this, and I'm just like, oh, that's weird. And I had the same reaction you did. I was like, this has got to be fake. Like, I don't buy this. And then you go to his Venmo page, and me and some of the other guys at Sooner Scoop did, and just scrolled all the way down. And sure enough, there it is. And then of course he wipes it clean later. So it's like, oh, this is probably something that we have to at least look into.
It's truly amazing, because when I first started a Venmo account a few years ago, it just takes the numbers that you have in your phone and matches them to whoever's on Venmo. And so obviously I have lots of NFL players' numbers in my phone because I got their numbers when they were recruits or when they were in college. And I'm seeing NFL players that are pretty famous in their Venmo transactions, and it's usually pizza. Yeah. It's almost always pizza. But I was like, how are these people allowing this to be public? And that, but that's the thing. Like, when I signed up, I didn't realize everything's public. But as soon as I saw that, I want to say, I think it was Gardner Minshew's number popped up, or his name popped up on mine. And I was like, wait, why am I seeing what Gardner Minshew is buying? And then I looked at the settings. I was like, oh, you have to make this private. And so I did. So now you don't see all the times that I've paid for my daughter's ballet shoes. But that's something that in this world, I mean, you're 18, you go to Washington State, you were a lightly recruited quarterback out of high school in Little Elm, Texas. Like, you're probably not going to know that.
Yeah. I also, you know, what's the funny part of this story too, Andy, is I don't know if you've really dug into how this originated, but there's a theory that it started from some Texas fans looking into it. And if that is not the most Red River rivalry, I mean, that is, you know, pure SEC football, pure hate right there. And you know, what's funny too is on our board, you know, on Soonerscoop.com, we have people now Venmoing John Mateer money, just sending him free money. And so it's like, it's caught this whole new thing where John Mateer's getting probably all these Venmo requests now from people because they found his Venmo. It's just
he probably can't take him because he got to run him through the CSC clearinghouse.
Yeah, so I can't imagine like what's going on John Mateer's phone right now. If I were him, I'd probably just delete my account entirely because now the whole world has it. Because there's probably also people sending him money. There's probably also people requesting lots of money from him as well.
Well, yeah, and we know he got a pretty good deal because Miami was after him too when he was leaving Washington State. So, but can you imagine being John Mateer and opening your phone Monday night?
No,
I'm sure you're starting to get texts immediately from friends.
Oh yeah,
parents, somebody saying you're going to need to do something here. Yeah.
Or I'd be, I mean, I guess maybe not panic. If he didn't do anything, then maybe you don't panic at all. But I don't know. It's fascinating. We're supposed to talk to Brent Venables this week on Friday. I don't know if this will be brought up. I would think that this will be cleared up by then. I mean, I think that Andy, maybe by the time we get off this show and later today, maybe we have some statements and some clarity on some of this. But it is interesting that, we are supposed to have some media. We actually spoke with several guys yesterday before all this.
Michael Fasusi, the freshman offensive tackle who might start.
I know.
Like that would be the big news other than if this hadn't happened.
Well, and that's the other thing that's part of this is like, even, if nothing comes of this, whatever, it is somewhat of a distraction. I don't know how serious of a distraction is. I would assume it's being talked about in the locker room by guys, so it's one of those things you don't really want it to happen in preseason camp. I also am like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I do think that, people are gambling. I mean, everybody does it, so I don't know. It's fascinating though.
Well, this is just, it's yet another thing for Oklahoma fans. One thing that I will tell Oklahoma fans that should make them happy, at least they're going to look cool at the stadium this year because Oklahoma is part of the game day collection at Rhoback. I'm wearing a Rhoback Hezzy hoodie right now. You know how I felt about the old Rhoback performance hoodies, that they were the best, that your whole family would steal them. The Hezzy hoodie, they've somehow made it more comfortable. It's even better. And now you can get it in all of your favorite universities. Like your school is probably a Rhoback partner. They have dozens of them. There's actually more of them dropping this week. Right here, I've got they sent me the Florida Q-Zip. This is the helmet stripe Q-Zip. It is unbelievable. But Clemson, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Penn State, Nebraska, you name it, Ohio State, that's the helmet stripe Q-Zip for Ohio State. So go to rhoback.com, RHOBACK, 20% off your first order. Look great at the stadium, at the tailgate, at the watch party this year. RHOBACK. Also, get your polos, your everyday shorts. The t-shirts are awesome now. Rhoback has really stepped things up. RHOBACK, code Andy for 20% off your first order. George, question for you. You're young. So you were very, very young when this happened, but I know there's a lot of people you work with and a lot of people that you talk to at the University of Oklahoma where there's been a lot of continuity that I'm sure the second all this happened last night, they went back to 2006 and Rhett Bomar and Big Red, the auto dealership.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was 10 years old when that happened. And I'll never forget my dad telling me about that and being like, oh yeah, this guy, and back then it was like so frowned upon, these guys getting paid and, what he did and all that. And Rhett Bomar was a disgrace. And now it's like, oh, well, that would have been pretty normal in today's world, but
very, very normal because he was clocking in for 40 hours and working 5, but he had like an hourly salary. Like it's so quaint compared to the money now.
Yeah, justice for Rhett Bomar. But I'm sure. I mean, and that's the thing. You said it earlier, Andy. But like, reading our boards are like just when like all this positive momentum with OU right now. There's a lot of hope that this group can be really good. The offense has been performing pretty well in camp, a lot better than they did a year ago against a really good defense. And then something like this pops up. And again, I don't think anything's going to come of this, but it's just the thought of like, Are you serious? Like, could we lose our quarterback, a couple weeks before the season to something this ridiculous?
I feel like there's one or two incredibly stupid stories every preseason. And unfortunately, the Oklahoma fans, they drew the short straw on this one, I think. And so they have to worry about this for a minute. I think I'm with you. I don't necessarily think anything comes of this. I think Oklahoma's response would have been markedly different if there were something back in the history that they were really, really concerned about. I think they would have closed ranks. You would have heard nothing from anybody, and it would just be locked down until maybe Brent Venables talks on Friday. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now. It seems to be that they are operating as if they expect John Mateer to play, and that's but to stay updated on all this, you need to be reading George every day at Soonerscoop.com. Soonerscoop is our excellent Oklahoma site at On3. And George, thank you so much for this. And we'll be bugging you again pretty soon because this, again, Oklahoma drew the short straw. They got the dumb preseason story. We may have to tie a bow on it soon.
Hopefully for OU fans, the next time I'm on with you, we're talking about actual football and not the quarterback possibly being in a gambling pyramid scheme with his old college roommate.
Yes. I want to hear about the 5-star offensive tackle who might start.
I want to talk about him. Yeah,
exactly. George, thank you so much. All right, Ari.
Okay.
Because I want to get your take on this too. Like, what on earth did you think when you saw the screenshots? Because like I said to George, my initial thought when I saw the screenshots is this must be fake. Because no one would possibly put that in the forward line on a Venmo transaction if they were a college athlete.
Initial thought was, and for people who don't know this, Andy knows this, our boss knows this, my phone is broken. Don't go into a pool with a waterproof iPhone if there's a crack on the back. PSA for everybody. So my phone's been broken, and we're in Vail, Colorado right now. By the way, I don't know if you want to check this out, but this is
oh boy, I'm gonna get very jealous. And oh no, I'm insanely jealous now.
But so my first thought when I saw that, Andy, was, oh shit, I am in Vail. I don't have a phone. My wife is booking llama tours for a 3-year-old in the middle of the day. My phone's being delivered to the hotel today. And like, we might have one of the most exciting starting quarterbacks in a gambling scandal, because listen, that's scary. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you look at that, you shit your pants. No?
Initially.
Yeah. I mean,
because a Venmo transaction description is
not evidence of anything.
Not evidence. Right. Yeah. You can literally say anything. You and I both sent one another examples of our own transactions with Stuart Mandel from The Athletic. Mine just had a burger emoji. It was $160. You sent me one that said $200 for swinging.
Yeah, because we were joking about it at dinner. Like, you never know why somebody did it. Also, if you go look at all of my Venmo transactions that are gambling related, it's "you're a loser. Great pick, idiot. Go F yourself." Like, I don't write like sports gambling with the specific event that I lost on.
That's why I thought it was fake. That's why I thought somebody had done it with AI. I was like, this can't be possibly real. It's like the Spaceball scene with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the code for the air shield. What's the combination an idiot would put on his luggage?
Yeah. So here's the deal. I go through Venmo all the time, and I look at mine, and like, I've actually seen like my ex-girlfriend, who I like really liked before I met the love of my life, like is married now and still like sends Venmos to her husband to like split meals and stuff. And I'm like, and I think that's hilarious. But yeah, like there's a lot of crazy stuff on here, but if you go through my transactions, it's all inappropriate, stupid stuff and never really what I did. But at the same time too, that's a pretty scary thing, because the date of the transaction apparently coincided with the day that he was playing in a game for Wazoo, and that event in that game happened that day. So like, if you had to like actually guess whether or not he might have like been in a fantasy thing or bet a friend or whatever, like he probably did, like it might've just been somebody not thinking, but at the same time,
as long as there's not like a sports book app transaction. And this is what I talk about with George. Like, if there is something like that, they're gonna find it.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're looking,
Yeah.
And like everything.
And I don't think Oklahoma would have reacted this way if there's something like that out there.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma would have been like, nope, we're not talking at all about any of this.
Like how long do you think it would even take to find like someone's social security number through the gambling apps, just like accounts associated with that number?
Well, remember the schools already have, they subscribe to services that monitor this. Like at a lot of the big schools, the players have to submit all that information to be monitored at all times. Yeah. So that's,
do you think
that's why I think
onto the Llama Tour today and not have a meltdown internally about this?
I think you can go on the Llama Tour and be okay.
Okay. I think I'm going to go on a llama today. But
what do you, when you Venmo the person for the Llama Tour, what emoji will you put in the,
I'm not going to put an emoji. I'm going to put a sporting event that happened today. Gambling loss sporting event.
It's so you're going to check the WNBA schedule or the MLB schedule and just,
we got a lot of, buddy, phone's been broken. Gambling on baseball has not stopped. Okay. You know, you put your bets in at midnight and you go to sleep. But it really is unbelievable to me how uncomfortable an adult person can be if you get rid of their phone for a few days. Like I don't have a phone and like, I'm like absolutely in shambles. Like
I was hoping this would help you.
No,
you texted me when this happened.
I'm terrified of letting you down. I want to be on the show. I want to be available. I want to write. Because this isn't the best time to be taking a vacation. We get it. Like it's August and this is usually a slow time, but like I don't need gambling scandal for top tier transfer quarterback. Like River saw me before you showed up. I'm like running around my hotel room trying to get changed. Our nanny maid is going into our house right now to
is this the one you had to ask about the thong?
The underwear
that mysteriously appeared in your washing machine?
So as we were starting, somebody called my laptop because my phone's not working, and you're like, yeah, we're here, Ari, we're here. And I'm like talking to the computer, but not to you. Like it's just, my life is in shambles right now. I'm getting the phone and insurance claim sent to this hotel, hopefully by the end of the day.
Well, the thing I felt so bad for as I was watching this story mushroom on Monday night and realizing this was going to be what my Tuesday was about is I was like, this is the perfect Ari story. And he's got to be dying inside right now.
Yeah, and like we've talked, we have some stuff taped, and you know, you're gonna help me out while I'm here. But like, I'm like, this is not something that like I can't be a part of for at least 5 minutes. So I appreciate you affording me the opportunity to be here and to talk about it. And you know, I'm super amped for the schedule, the season. I saw the AP poll. Like, there's a lot to discuss, and we're gonna be doing it all year. Now,
can we do a little public service for the people though?
Yeah,
for the younger generations. I've said this already twice on the show. I'm gonna say this again. Make your Venmo transactions private. If you don't, at least only use emojis to describe what you are buying, because then someone is going to have to decipher that. There's mine to Stuart Mandel, and it's funny because it breaks my only emoji rule, because there's a hamburger emoji and then the number one. I have fat fingers. I think I probably just accidentally hit the one.
It's a pretty expensive burger.
Well, okay, so that is from L'Aspero in Atlanta, where we ordered. There were like 8 of us, and we ordered every item on the menu.
Oh yeah, that was
the burger was maybe the best thing.
I think that might have been a top 10 meal I've ever had in my entire life, if I'm being honest. So,
but and the burger was incredible. So that's why I chose the burger emoji over something else. But at least make people decipher it. Don't make it that easy.
And just please, for the love of God, for the next few days while I'm in and out of service, just don't let the world meltdown and just like try to. You got I sent you Britt's number. Just if something crazy happens, text her. But you know,
now I'm just gonna be texting Ari's wife various fake stories. Like, you're not gonna believe what happened to Bryce Underwood. Have you seen this Cade Klubnik thing?
Yeah, but I'm really gonna try to relax today. So this is a good show. Loved that I was here, and let's just hope that John Mateer is playing football this year, because outside of this, like, the drama of what's happening right now, I'm very excited to watch him in Oklahoma play this year. Really excited.
I think he will be. But in keeping with the theme today of QB1s, new QB1 at Minnesota. We met Drake Lindsey at Big Ten Media Days, talked to him about winning the job, about Coy Parrish, who it sounds like is not going to be a gadget guy, but is going to be a legit two-way player They're going to try to Travis Hunter this thing with Corey Parrish, who was one of the best freshman safeties in the country last year. Now he's going to play receiver as well. Drake Lindsey from Fayetteville, Arkansas, starting for the Gophers. Here's Drake. We're here with Minnesota QB Drake Lindsey, and this is an interesting one because a lot of times coaches will kind of string out the naming the QB1.
Yeah.
You've been the dude. I mean, it's your, what, redshirt freshman year,
Yes,
sophomore
sir, yeah.
year? Like, how did that happen so quickly for you?
Yeah, right when I got here in January, early enrolled, I had Max Brosmer with me, and we were attached to hip.
Yeah.
He was one of my best friends on the program and still is one of my closest friends. And when you have that connection with somebody, it's very easy for him to be able to help me out more and more, and gets comfortable for me to ask questions. So that was a big thing for me.
How much, because Max was facing an adjustment too. Like you're from Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's from Atlanta, Southern guy, in Minnesota, but then he's also coming from the FCS.
Yeah.
He played so much football. How much did he help you just in the meeting rooms and learning the college game?
Yeah, it was a lot. He made things super simple for me. I think one of Max's best qualities is something that some people use 1,000 words for. He can use 10 and simplify it really easy, and it sticks with you. There was tons of things that he taught me that were super simple, and they've stuck with me. So
and you're playing for a program that Minnesota knows what it is.
Yeah.
They're going to run the ball down your throat. They're going to play great defense, but obviously when you have a dynamic passing game and you can do those other things, that's where you compete for championships.
100%.
How excited are you for this year?
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to have a great O-line and Darius Taylor leading the way.
Yeah.
Helps a lot in the passing game. If you can get the run game established, then that's when you can take your shots and get down the field looks. And we got a lot of weapons this year, and just got to get them the ball and utilize it.
So you grew up in Fayetteville. Various members of the family played various sports at Arkansas.
Yeah.
How did Minnesota get onto you, and what was that recruitment like?
Yeah, it was I just took an official visit to Colorado State. It was April of going before my senior year.
Yeah.
And all the coaches just followed me and called me and told me they wanted to come watch me before they offered me. And then later that night, Coach Harbaugh called me back and offered me. And then after that, they were just recruiting me super hard.
How does that happen? So the Colorado State part of it, like, because they kind of cheat off each other's paper.
Yeah, a little
and
bit.
when they see that somebody's interested in one, so how did Colorado State find you, and what was that, and then what were those next few days like?
Yeah, so in December after my junior year, Matt Mummy had kind of reached out to me, the OC there.
Oh yeah,
and just
Hal Mummy's son.
Yeah. And he has a great offense down there. They're doing great things, but he had offered me and just said I'd fit how they were doing. And he recruited me really hard, and then Minnesota offered me, and then just flipped the switch a little bit. They recruited me in a different way that I really liked.
What was it about PJ that made you want to play for him?
Yeah, from the very first FaceTime, I could tell that his energy matched mine. And that's a guy that I want to step out on the field for and win games with.
It seems like, since he's been there, he's been able to find guys, and they come, they develop, they want to stay. It's an interesting, deal, because you guys don't tend to lose a bunch of guys through the transfer portal.
Yeah, we don't. I think it's the culture that we bring in, and then how much better people get in a fast, rapid way. Me going into my redshirt freshman year, and then Corey Parrish has only been here for a year and a month. He came in June, so
yeah, he's like the defensive equivalent, because Jeremiah Smith was first team All Big Ten, and he was the other freshman all first team Big Ten.
Yeah, he's unreal, man. He's awesome.
Wow. Did you know that right away when he showed up?
Yeah, you could see it. He got here in June, so it was hard to be like, oh, he's going to come in and, just make an instant impact. And you could tell it that's why the first 5 weeks, he wasn't necessarily starting.
Right.
Because it's hard to come from.
Yeah, he only officially started 4 games. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
and then once the USC game happened, he just took off with it, and he's an amazing athlete and an amazing kid. So, how
much confidence did that USC game give you guys last year?
A ton. Like seeing Max after the game and, beating the number 11 team in the country, how everyone felt, it was an awesome experience.
So, when you find out, that you're going to be the guy, how does that work? Like, when did Coach Fleck tell you you're it?
He hasn't officially announced that.
But you're here.
Yeah.
They're saying something.
Yeah, 100%. They are, but you just got to keep working and attack fall camp and get better with the team and get to the first game and just go from there.
We got to talk Lennon suit here. This is perfect for Vegas.
I appreciate it.
You're a Southern guy, so you gotta. So how did you land on this? And we'll take a picture of the Louis V shoes.
Okay.
We'll make sure people see those.
I got you.
But were you a Louis V guy growing up? I mean, that seems like Fayetteville duck hunting, that history. Like, what's Dad say about this?
I mean, my dad obviously is not the biggest style throwing Louis Vuitton. He's more like just Arkansas guy.
Yeah.
I got to college, and I've always liked this kind of stuff. Always liked to have a little style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of how it's just me, you know?
So for those who don't know, before Drake got here, and Ian Fitzsimmons from ESPN Radio was mercilessly killing him about his tie and the knot. And the tie was fine. This is the part where you need to realize you're getting hazed.
Yeah.
And I realize you've already been through it as a freshman on your team, but this is the new part of the hazing is you deal with people who just mentally torture you about your tie.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. You know, I'm not the best at tying ties, so he kind of got after me a little bit. And then it's funny, Coach Fleck comes up to me after and starts fixing it. He's like, I need to retie your tie. So it doesn't look too
He's
good.
a very distinctive tie tyer, though. Like because he's a suit guy.
He is.
Like most of these coaches would never wear a suit if they could get away with it.
Yeah.
He wants to wear a suit.
He does. You know, every game he has the little tie under. And his tie collection's unreal. He's got a ton of ties.
So, the Louis V shoes, you strike me as someone who, let's say things work out and you're at the next level. Are you going to go like Joe Burrow crazy on the tunnel walks, or?
That's crazy because I got asked who my favorite player is and who it's Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about all he does. He's a little more, style than me.
Oh yeah.
He's got.
But he wasn't back in the day.
He wasn't. I do look up to Joe. Honestly, I think that's one of my favorite players in the league and how he carries himself and how people look at him.
We got to find the picture of Joe Burrow arriving at Ohio State as a freshman.
Yeah.
It's out there. So, because he wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes.
Okay. Like the shirts with the wolves on it.
Yeah.
That's what Joe wore to introduce himself to college football. So
100%.
there's a range here. So
yeah. I'd love to get to that level. So
well, you're on your way.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Drake.
Yes, sir.
That is new Minnesota starting quarterback Drake Lindsey, and a very quarterback heavy day, but I think it's going to be a very quarterback heavy week. When I signed off on Monday, I said probably going to get some quarterback news. Well, it turned out we got quarterback news a few hours later with Alabama naming Ty Simpson the starting quarterback. We're still waiting on Ohio State, still waiting on Notre Dame. Don't know if we're going to get those this week, but we'll see. Again, Fran Brown has mentioned maybe naming first team, second team this week at Syracuse. So this is the time that stuff starts to happen. This stuff starts to pop. And if we learn anything from John Mateer and his Venmo account, you just never know what the hell is going to happen in college football. We'll talk to you tomorrow.